For years, I believed experience automatically changes self-image, and to be fair, that's what most theories would predict. So, if you do difficult things, you become someone who does difficult things. If you continue to show up, you become someone who shows up. That's the prediction. However, something about my experience never quite matched that. I showed up to boxing. I boxed for months. I boxed when I didn't want to, when it was extremely difficult to get myself to do it. I continued to do it, and I did it anyway. Yet, it was still surprisingly easy to fall out of the habit. In theory, identity is built from experience, and experience updates the identity. It's like that feedback loop effect I talk about in all of my other videos. So if this is the case, why is it that when I literally got the experience doing the thing that the identity would have done, why was it so possible to drift away from that identity? It doesn't make sense. I'd been thinking about this problem for a while. Visualization works in some contexts. It's documented, there's scientific research backing it up. Yet, so many people online especially complain that it doesn't work. Even I couldn't get it to work for a bit. So the same thing bothered me about real experience. People can accumulate real experience and then still revert back to their old identities. I mean, we see this happen a lot. My example for boxing was a good example. And then there's also like weight loss journeys. People lose all the weight that they had, then they gain it all back. So clearly real experience or real experience visualization, these things are lacking a critical step that we haven't identified. So I'll just walk through the steps that I took when I did the visualization, which is actually what broke me out of the cycle, which is very important because it provides a key insight and actually tells you what the answer to this problem is. So I relaxed first, slow breathing, eyes closed, progressive relaxation of my entire body, kind of like meditation. A lot of people treat this as preparation. It's not preparation. It's actually a full step of its own, and it has significance. No one understands it, which is why they just, they treat it offhandedly. When you fully relax, when you're in this deeply relaxed state, your mind processes imagery very differently. Experiences that you just think of, like for example, people daydream without even realizing it. These same people, if they're in a relaxed state, will start to experience involuntarily, sensations that they that they imagine. So for example, if I really relax and then I start like imagining a sparring session, like my body will be laying down and it'll start twitching, it's proof that it's working, right? It's just one of the many telltale signs that it's working. So relaxation is very important. And then I did the actual visualization practice. Basically, I just imagined, how I would feel if I just went to boxing and enjoyed it, and the visualization ended. And then I asked myself a very simple question after reflecting. What kind of person does this? The answer I got was also a very simple answer back. Someone who genuinely cares about boxing does this. And then the whole session ended. It lasted maybe 1 minute of reflection, and then the visualization was maybe like 5 minutes. And the next day was sparring. Sparring is usually the hardest day of the week. It's the hardest session. You're basically preparing yourself to fight other people, right? It takes the most mental effort. It takes the most physical effort. So I'd walked into the boxing gym on sparring day after being off for like 2 or 3 weeks. But here's the kicker. I had walked into this gym in maybe the worst physical state I had ever been in for a long time, maybe ever, throughout my boxing journey, year plus, whatever. I had barely gotten I had no sleep. I didn't get any sleep. I hadn't eaten anything, and this session was at 5 p.m., right? So it's quite late. I had an injury, so I gritted through the injury and showed up anyway. And then I also had like problems in my personal life that I was dealing with at the time. I had every reason not to go. Like, this was basically the worst possible prep I could have had. And guess what? Usually such a situation would have generated immense resistance. It would have been incredibly difficult to go and force myself to go, right? Even if I forced myself to go, like, I've done it before, but it took a lot of mental effort. This kind of situation on paper is the perfect day to stay home, but I ended up going, and that's not the important part. I had no resistance in going. It wasn't difficult for me to go. It was like natural. It was as if I was taking a shower. It was so easy. It's ridiculous to me. And then this experience pointed me towards something that I hadn't realized before, that honestly I haven't seen anywhere else. I've read Psycho-Cybernetics, haven't seen him talk about it either. Though he alludes to it, he doesn't really specifically outline it as a mechanism. the reflection seemed more important than the actual visualization or the experience because it frames it. And it wasn't the fact that I hadn't accumulated experience, it's the fact that I hadn't integrated it into my identity, like who I was. So here's the short version of this. Simulated experiences are visualizations, which means they're just fake experiences. But obviously fake experiences will not work if real experiences don't. Real experiences oftentimes don't even update your self-image. You still revert back to your initial state, which means there's an unknown variable that's missing. And my guess is this variable is interpretation. Adding interpretation frames the experience that you gain, real or fake, as something important, and your brain holds on to it. And then after a while, you kind of brainwash yourself into actually becoming that person. I think this is the hidden key, the hidden piece of the puzzle that is missing, that no one talks about. No, I haven't seen this anywhere else, and I think it should be talked about more. I think it's very important.